Hello, my name's Michael Keneally and I'm speaking to you, making a small group of videos following a group visit to the Atlantic shore near our healing centre and Airbnb in County Sligo in far west of Ireland. And we've been working to meet Manannan. We've been working to understand Manannan. And magnificent strides have been made. No one could sum up the whole of Manannan because he's a shapeshifter. He moves like the mists over the ocean and the currents of the sea. But here is another way of understanding the gift of Manannan. So in the other videos I've talked about Manannan's attributes and shared to students vision journey reports. But here is a quick retelling, in my own words, of the Voyage of Bran. And this gives you another understanding of what Manannan is about. So basically, Bran was the son of the king. He was a young lad and he was too busy surfing and sailing to bother with the girls. And his dad was not pleased. His dad wanted a responsible young son and an heir and a grandson. And so, one day, he convened an assembly and he told Bran he had to come to the assembly because Bran didn't normally go to assemblies and that Bran had to choose a wife. So what happened was a feast was set up and families were invited and fair maidens came. It all looked so really good and promising. But Bran was bored by the maidens. His dad was at his wit's end. But then they noticed that Bran had gone into a sort of trance. What Bran saw was an apple branch coming towards him, shaking and emitting the most ethereal fairy music. And Bran wasn't quite sure why, but at that moment a vision entered Bran's eyes. The most beautiful girl with red hair and flashing eyes. Why was that? And then, this is really weird, thought Bran, the branch spoke to him. I come from Tir Naban. He looked round. What was that? The Isle of Women. I like you, and I want you to sail over the sea to Tir Naban to become my own, the voice said. Bran's life was never the same again. And then, very briefly, he saw a shimmering girl was holding the apple branch. It was her who had spoken. All the other maidens shimmered out of sight. He could only see. She was slender as an eyelid and beautiful beyond any compare. And then the vision ended. I'm setting sail, Dad, Bran said to his father. Everyone was so disappointed, but his dad was prepared to go along with it. He'd always felt there was something about Bran that, that would express itself one day. And so the cover was prepared and he called for companions. A lot of people sort of, oh, I'm not sure I want to go. But 5 of his companions raced forward. We'll help you find the shimmering girl. And the next morning, they launched the cover. And they voyaged far. And they voyaged further. And eventually, Bran was in deep trouble because it was obvious they were lost. And that his 5 companions got less friendly towards him. So, what were they going to do? And then they saw a chariot coming across the ocean towards them, drawn by a magnificent horse, and driven by a supreme warrior with white hair, whose cloak shimmered around him. It was obvious who it was. It was Manannan coming to save them, the god of the sea. And so the chariot drew next to the curragh on the waves of the ocean. What does she look like? Manannan asked. Red hair, yes. Shimmering eyes of grey, yes. Clever. Cruel. You are going to have to find out the hard way, Manannan said when he saw the determined look on Bran's face. So what Manannan did then, he left it up to Bran to make his own learning. And so Manannan parted the mists, and Bran and the crew could see. I'd never noticed that before. We're next to an island. In fact, they could see the beach, and then on the beach was a group of 11 beautiful women. The guys immediately turned the car around. They rowed hard towards the beach. But Bran had a moment of worry. Was there a flash of something menacing in the lead girl's eyes? Surely not. Just for a tiny moment. Merciless even. But the other guys were rowing, and then they found they were just being held up endlessly. The harder they rowed, they just couldn't get near the shore. What are we going to do? Those girls just look fantastic, they said. And then the lead girl, who was the one with the apple branch, threw a ball of twine. And Bran, he was really good at hurling, he caught the ball, and then the lead girl pulled on the ball of twine, pulled in the twine, and the boat came nearer and nearer her shore. But then the other guys started to get worried. It could have been the claws on the girl's toes. And one of them said, God, they look like birds of prey. And still the lead girl was pulling and pulling on the twine. They began to panic. I mean, they didn't get really absolutely frightened because they were warriors, but they thought they had to do something. So they pulled out their knives and cut at the twine. It did not cut. They pulled out their swords and cut at the twine. It did not cut. And then Bran had a sort of brainwave. The sword that Manannan gave me. Manannan had given him a sword just when Manannan parted the mists to show them the island. I will use the sword of Manannan. And so he thrust the sword and the twine severed. And of course the moral of the story is that Manannan penetrates illusions and mists. A sword is a weapon of distinguishing between truth and falsehood. And Manannan's sword is particularly good at that. And so the moral of the story is that Manannan deals with illusions but offers a way of cutting through them. And so Bran hurled the sword through the twine. It broke. The girls were enraged. The guys turned the car around and rowed like mad for the horizon. And it didn't take them long to get back to Ireland. And they got back home. But when they got back home, they found that many centuries had passed, and they even met people talking about, well, like an ancient myth about this guy Bran who went off looking for a wife. And so they thought, okay, nevertheless, we're going to make a home here. It might be 500 years in the future, but we're going to make a home. So one of them got out of the boat and went to the shore. And then before the eyes of the people on the shore that they'd been speaking to, he got older and older and older and older, and he fell apart to dust. The people ran away. They just didn't want anything to do with this. But a young lad called Cormac came up, and he actually seized the sword of Manannan and wrote a story about it. And he watched on indeed with horror while the other guys from the boat grew older and older and turned to dust, and all that was left of their skin was leather. But then Cormac thought, well, I myself will set out on a boat. I won't make the mistake they did. And as he was setting out on his voyage, he glimpsed a white-haired god with a chariot riding the waves. Thank you.